Welcome to the Founding Voices podcast. But I'm changing this. It's no longer welcome to the Founding Voices podcast. It's now welcome to the Weird Octopus podcast. I thought Founding Voices podcast is a bit boring, so I prefer the Weird Octopus. It's a little bit too much, maybe. Maybe an octopus is always weird, but I like the phrase Weird Octopus. This is a series of conversations with humans who showed up before there was a map. I'm Perry, the founder of the Octopus Movement, and I believe nonlinear thinking is not just a way of creating possibilities, it's a way of being in the world. Each week, I speak with three or two founding members of our global human mycelium to explore who they are, why they think differently, and how they're shaping a future that cannot be built in straight lines. Well, let's meet today's guest. Today, I'm so honored to have Anthony Hall, and you can already see it, Anthony Hall, aka also known as Grandpa STORK. I will ask him the question, what that is about. And honestly, that already tells you this is not going to be a standard conversation. Anthony is the founder of the Rose of Education organization, or TREO, where education becomes children's play and technology becomes a game. He's an educator, technologist, storyteller, mentor, grandfather, and builder of dragons, gardens, games, and futures. Who doesn't like that? What I love about Anthony is that he's not trying to fit children into the systems. He's trying to create environments where children can discover who they already are. His life's work is about identifying, nurturing, and cultivating the unique gifts and talents of children and learners so they can grow into compassionate, confident, successful human beings. Who doesn't want to be successful, confident, and compassionate, right, Anthony? He brings together education, entertainment, exploration, STEAM, literacy, literal, I, never mind, health, wellness, and
Easy for you to say.
imagination. Never mind. In a way that feels both visionary and deeply human. And underneath all of it is one powerful belief. Sometimes the best way forward is backwards. Anthony Hall, Grandpa Stork, welcome to the Weird Octopus.
Thank you, Perry. It's an honor to be here on the show with you on the podcast with all my other weird octopi friends. So this island of misfit toys that we've joined that is turning out that we're the misfits the world needs. And so it's great to be here to tell Grandpa's story. Y'all have seen me doing my dragon flying crazy stuff around LinkedIn and on YouTube. So it's great to have a chance to kind of chat with you, Perry.
I'm so looking forward to it. And I have a feeling that we have a lot to explore because I always have this gut feeling with you when I see you, Anthony. I'm always happy when you jump into the Zoom room and when I see you there unexpected. I always think there's more going on with Anthony that we're seeing. There's more going on in his thinking. There's more going on in what he does. So I hope we can peel the onion today a little bit
Mm.
to see
Well, yeah,
who
I've already
Grandpa Stork
shaved my
really
head,
is.
so make it.
I want to know more. Yeah, I want to know more than the obvious things. And um, again, I'm doing this because I want to show my kids in how cool these founding members are. And we talk easily about, oh, a founding member of the Octopus Movement and done, but it's not easy. It's an interesting story. It is fascinating to see who showed up and who these almost 170 people now are all linked together all over the world. But let's go to my first question to you, Anthony. Always the same question, and I'm curious how you're going to answer this. But who is the octopus in Grandpa Stork? Who who are you as a nonlinear thinker? What makes you the curious mind? What makes you the weird one? What is your nonlinear thinking?
All right, it's been great, to see you asking those questions. I've had an opportunity to kind of think about it, and actually something that I posted about recently that I, I've always felt like I've had 9 brains and 3 hearts. Everything that I was interested in, so many things here and there, just like a hummingbird flitting back and forth and being told, focus on one thing, to just, to stay in the box when I was all around outside and exploring everything else. But it's really been that, that when I think about why the octopus resonates with me and my type of thinking, and it really is that I've had all these disparate and diverse interests, even as a young child growing up. My friends were into Motown, and I mean, I was into Jackson 5 and all those groups as well, but also grew up loving the Broadway show tunes. I'd be singing, Oklahoma, where the wind comes. I mean, I had a love for those things as well. And my mother was an artist, and watching her explore, and so I had a varied upbringing and varied interests, and I was allowed to explore all those interests growing up, and so yeah. Early on, I could never make sense of all those different things that I was interested in as well, but I knew that's where my heart was leading me. And so I fortunately was, growing up in the early 60s and 70s, we had that type of freedom where we were allowed to explore those type of things and our world and our relationship in it. And like you said, the things that we're doing, that we hope to leave a legacy for our children so they can see, what our role was about. I mean, that's, early on we had video or photo albums, but now we can actually share the stories. We can build an archive of every place we've been and the people we've met and open the world to them. I mean, that's why I've been doing what I've been doing. I mean, I talk about that this has been for my grandchildren, and it is, not for them, but also for their grandchildren as well. What will be the world like, and what will greet them when they enter the world. And I want them to be able to see that the world doesn't have to be a scary place. Here's all the places that Grandpa's been. Here's all the places that I've been and seen, and the people, and that these places are now. I've been traveling on the road for the past 12 years, traveling the world, trying to elevate education and help others make sense of themselves, as I want to do for my grandchildren. But it's really for the child I was growing up and the child that I still am. And we talk about kids, it's really the child within all of us that is seeking, someone, reaching out a hand and hoping someone will take it and guide them along, and say that things will be all right. And
how old are you, Anthony? Maybe
I will be 6'7" on 6/7 on June 7th. So I'll be 67 on June 7th. On cool. June 7th. Yeah, and so I've had.
I want to ask you this immediately. So 66 years of people saying, shouldn't you focus on one thing only? What kind of effect does that have in your life? Because that always comes back, right? People will always say to us, maybe you should focus on one thing. What happens with you when someone says to you, hey, Anthony, shouldn't you be focusing on one thing only? What happens with you?
Well, that was interesting because first I had a kind of like, resistance to that. That they don't know what they're talking about. But then there came a point where I started thinking, okay, so what is all these things about? Are they just all different interests that don't have any connections? Or could they all actually be one thing? Mm-hmm. What is that one thing that connects them all? What are the dots of all my imaginations and influences and inspirations and all these things I've been interested in? What would happen if I connected all those dots What would be the picture? What would be that one thing? And that one thing turned out to be the rose of education. That I was able to make the connections of all my different passions, all my different interests, and thinking about how could I take all these things that I am, that I've learned, and how could I create something and find the value of that and give back. And so that's been my search over these past 16 years when I started the Rose of Education organization, a space tourism industry startup developing operations in education, entertainment, and exploration. So that's the Rose of Education's 50-year business plan. So we're not we're for-profit, socially responsible enterprise trying to make sure that the future will be welcoming for my grandchildren, their grandchildren. You know, when I witnessed the birth of my first grandchild almost 22 years ago, I'd watched my daughter become a mother. And now I'm in the delivery room watching her become a mother and welcoming my grandson. And while I'm holding her in my arms, I'm transported through time, thinking about my life and what my life had been up to that moment. And I found that, you haven't been doing what you needed to be doing. I haven't tried to give back as an African American in the technology field and hardware and software development and rocking and rolling and being successful and but I recognized I hadn't given back. I hadn't done anything to mentor young men and women that look like me. I didn't have those kind of mentors when I was started in the field, but I hadn't given back. And so this gave me an opportunity to think about, okay, what can I give back? What is Grandpa all about? And he's done all this stuff. So what can I do to do something with all these gifts? What is it?
And I like the fact, Anthony, that you're describing this, that you're not giving back only to your grandkids, but you're also giving back to your little self, the young Anthony almost.
Yeah.
Isn't that something interesting we should all think about in when we reach a age of 40, 50, whatever, 60, that we should think, what can I give back to myself by
Yes.
giving that to others?
Yeah. At the end, and that really is the first step. That inward journey, like I said, sometimes the best way forward is backwards. And, that step back, that step away for more perspective and objectivity, for detachment, to look back
and
at
how difficult is it? Because when let me be honest with you. I have a lot of conversations with regards to education, and I'm Dutch, so I can be very bold. That's what my weird accent, but also be very bold. The educational world, boy, that's tough. It's a bit stuck. Many people want things to change in the educational world, and educators are not always happy to do things differently, with all due respect. And there is a lot of accountability, there are a lot of systems, there is a lot of pressure and time limits. How do you travel the world? And it's funny, it's really true. Then Anthony's in Ireland, then he's in the US, and then it's like, what is he doing? What is your experience in working together in the field of education? Maybe you're not working together with educators, maybe you're just educating yourself. It's How does that work for you?
Okay, well, what I think about, I thought about, what my life has been. And, I think about, the story of, from Easter Hill to Silicon Valley, this nonlinear journey, and how growing up in the early 60s in a predominantly Black neighborhood, not too far, about 15, 20 minutes from Oakland, where Black Panthers were and everything that was happening at that time. And then how our parents, they moved us from that area in northwestern California up northern California, up about 45 minutes north, to a predominantly white neighborhood, tree-lined streets. My sister and I had our own bedroom. We had a backyard with fruit trees, and the education was different as well. And so learning to navigate those, and then I think about, what the challenges teachers have in dealing with, all these diverse students and all these diverse learning styles, and And what I found in traveling around, and actually one of the reasons I started traveling because, I had this idea about how to, help, with the literacy skills and language skills of my grandkids, and also introduce them to programming and coding concepts, but in a fun and engaging way. And I couldn't find any games that would do that. I mean, that would be engaging to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of using games and play to do that. But I just had an idea, it's concept play on a chalkboard. Okay. But when I wanted to test the idea of, and I did some testing in the US, we went to, did a couple of talks, but in order to actually work with a school and educators in the US, it was, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. A lot of things you have to do.
That's
and so
the proper way to say it, right?
And actually one of the first things I did before I started traveling, I started talking to educators. And one of the first things I did, I cried my way onto a steering committee of this organization called that was working with educators, adult educators, early education, childhood education, and providing them a networking resources as well as, and we do workshops. And I found my way, even though I wasn't an educator, I'm just this technologist who got this idea, and I'm, passionate about my grandkids and what I'm developing for them.
Is that what happened? You're just a nerd, can I say that? And
Yeah.
you have grandkids, and you're thinking, oh shit, I want to do something with education, right?
Yeah. Even though I didn't, after 12th grade, that was enough school for me. I mean, I couldn't be ours sitting in class. So I figured there had to be a better way, but I wanted to get to learn what educators were facing. So I found myself on the steering committee of this literacy learners network and helping educators and being a part of, creating networking events and doing workshops with other educators and bringing them all together and helping them with best practices and so forth. And that helped me to learn a lot about it. But also when I started traveling the world, I found that I go to places like India, Tanzania, Uganda, Ethiopia, Brazil, Cambodia, all these places. And I could just, and knock on the gate, knock on the door and say, hey, I'm from California, grandpa, blah, blah, blah. And I want to see, I have these ideas for games, and I'm there on my own dime. I'm just showing up, I'm not asking for them for anything. I'm just saying.
What is their response? I can
come on in. It's always been, the door has always been open. It's been amazing.
A big lesson maybe for us that we should just knock on the door, travel, go, not knock on the door of the neighbors, but go to different cultures and just give.
Yeah. Right. I mean, for me, that was, and so again, my background is in hardware and software development. And so for me, the strategy was that I'm going to take this product that I have, or this project and this program, this application I'm envisioning as a way to, embed meaning and context within the algorithm, so that that space between the one and the zeros, we want to fill it with the meaning and context of us humans. That space between thoughts that, that's like that space between thoughts that is ripe for embedding with the human condition within the systems. And that's part of what we've been doing as well. But being able to just, I saw the Dalai Lama speak at the Tibetan temple in Dharamshala. That was on my first trip to India in March of 2014, and I had a chance to watch him speak, with a few other people. And then I found out I was still in India for that month, and I found out he had gone to a leprosy colony to visit. And he was talking about on his Facebook page that these young people, there's families living there because he may be a uncle or a mother or somebody. And so the whole family is there. And the kids who are there, who are going to school, because they're living in that complex, when they go to the schools, they're stigmatized. and because they're unclean, as it were, in this environment. And being raised in a spiritual household, we'd always read about leprosy. I'd never seen it, whatever. But so a week after the Dalai Lama had been there, I found a place because it was not too far from where I was staying in New Delhi. I knocked on the gate.
Yeah.
And so folks came up to say, okay, who are you? I said, well, my name is this the place where the Dalai Lama was last week? So yeah, well, I read about it on Facebook page, so forth and so on. I'm here to see if there's anything that I could do to help. Working in education, Bob. They opened the gates, let me in. I met the elders of the community, and to see leprosy up close, because you lose your fingers tips, you lose extremities, but to be welcomed with such love and just, those are the type of experience that I want my grandchildren to see. Mm-hmm. Know that they don't have to be afraid that the world that we're living in doesn't have to be viewed as a prison, but a playground. And especially as an entrepreneur, as innovators, we have to think differently about how we approach and why are we doing what we're doing, and connect with, all those things that it turned out I was interested in have been able to coalesce and crystallize into this one form, where I could deliver all those different interests in the form that are part of the programs I've been developing. So if I would have just focused on one thing, I wouldn't be doing the things what I'm doing today. I wouldn't have had the experiences I've had.
And Anthony, so you've created your for-profit organization. Is that the method that keeps you going, where there is a for-profit stream of income that allows you to travel the world and knock on gates and say, "Hey, listen."
Oh, I didn't say that there was a stream of income. Being an entrepreneur, what it's like, brother. We're skint most of the time, and so the idea of, again, my strategy, because when I started my company, I had on my director of business development and sales hat, and so I'm thinking about, okay, what can I do for my company? Listen, I recognize that nothing happens. Everything takes longer than you think it's going to. And so that's why I gave my company a 50-year business plan and vision and runway, recognizing that it was going to take a long time, but that I wanted to build it in a way that that aligned with who I was. So I'm developing strategic alliances and partnerships, the business channel, all these countries that I travel to, and so it was. Again, I played with the idea initially of the Rose of Education being a nonprofit, but there's so many, there's too many restrictions regarding, where I could go, what I could do, and what you have to report and everything. It's like I don't have that. I made sure I set up my situation where when I started off, I invested in myself. Instead of investing in I took all the money out of my savings, all that saved up, my 401k, and I invested in my company. So when I started traveling, I knew that it was going to be a while, but I also set up my company to not only, develop these applications, but also to figure out how can I use what I got, even the small bit, and still accomplish. It turns out that it doesn't take much. Once I get to a country like India or the continent of Africa, it's the cost of living, travel is very inexpensive, and so I could, I lived in Africa in East Africa for 3.5 years. I lived in India for 2 years, not really making any money, just making a little bit on the side. I had some side projects as a cybersecurity training coordinator that I do projects on, and other things. But, it turns out, what do we want? We have to decide, that if this vision is worth pursuing, I've had it all. I've had the houses, I've had the cars, I've had the cribs, and ice on my wrist and a trophy on my arm. I've lived all that. And so it's like, okay, also don't mind backpacking or couch surfing. or just I mean, I grew up in the hood. I don't mind. I don't mind living in the hood when I go to places. I don't need to stay in a in a in some fancy place when I'm traveling. Yeah, I rent a room. I live like the locals, and so I found a way that um, because I figure that if I can't be motivated and engaged and creative and content where I may, I have to live like that's already there. It's already happening. I just have to, if I'm constrained by the thought that, okay, I'm worried about the money coming in, I live like it's already here. And so what would I be doing if that money, what conversations would I be having? What would I be focused on? Would I be doing anything different if suddenly $1 million came in, or something like that? And I figure, okay, no, it shouldn't change. I'd just be doing more of what I'd be doing, but I found a way to think, it's really about our mindset, about where we are here and what we want to accomplish in the future. And that, the dreams and the visions that we have, it's already realized, Perry. You've already realized, and that, that dream, but, we get stuck in thinking that, again, it always takes long. And
I
we
love
get
the 50-year runway. I think that's people should keep that in mind because we always want to have results very fast and then it's not working and we get frustrated. I love the 50-year runway. It's a very Chinese way of thinking as well. In China, they think generations. When they create something, they want to create something for upcoming generations. Um,
yeah.
and what I
But that
love
was yeah. Well,
what I love
oh, sorry, go ahead.
what I love about your what you just shared with us, it's actually such a good way to look into the brain of the inner octopus and the nonlinear thinker. I think everything you've said is so much aligned with what we're talking about and where we are seeing the bigger picture and we're saying we're doing things differently, we approach things differently. Um, it's fascinating. And I think a lot of people are inspired by your story. I have two more questions, and we're running out of time. But
Let's do that.
um, one question is if you could whisper a sentence in everybody's ear at the same time in their own language, what would it be? And the other question is it's a bit of a cliche. I never asked this last question because, but I think in your case, I want to know when people want to follow your travels, when they want to see what Grandpa Stork is doing, where do they go? What's how can they be a part of it? Because so many things are changing in the world. So many people
Yeah.
are losing their jobs. So many people are thinking, "What the hell am I doing here? What's the purpose of everything? What should I do?" So first, the whisper
Okay.
question, and then where can we find Grandpa Stork question?
Okay. Well, it's what I always say. And what I would tell anyone: dream big, play hard, give back, have fun, and and imagine. Just imagine. I mean, so I always use that, but that's really what I've kind of boiled down life to be. And you want to follow Grandpa? You can find me on at Grandpa Stork on YouTube. You can see a lot of the videos. I've kind of documented everything I've been doing over the past 12 years since I've been on the road. On LinkedIn, on Instagram at Grandpa Stork, on XAI, you can on Facebook. So yeah, I'm all over the place, but especially on LinkedIn. And so we have a LinkedIn open group called the Rose of Education organization as well. And that's actually where it started. It all
Can we
started with
do
the,
Can we do, Anthony? Can we do a behind the scenes with Anthony on our Patreon for within the Octopus Movement to show
sure.
when you're knocking on a gate? Like, hey guys, this
Oh,
is what it looks like.
I got all kind of behind the scenes stuff. I'll send some stuff to you.
That would be awesome. Thank
It's
you
been wonderful. Thank you,
so
Perry.
much for being here, Anthony, not just in the podcast, but also in the movement as a founding member. Um, I have I always find it so humble, so cool to see people joining us in the founding member team and showing up and thinking with each other, thinking with me, coming with suggestions, building together, creating possibilities. I love that. And if you're listening and you feel a spark, follow it. I know Anthony does. Nonlinear thinking is not a strategy, it's a kind of love, and it grows where we share it. And I think Anthony is a very good example of that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, Perry. All right. All the best,
See you next
Octopi.
time.
See you next